launch of the Xbox Series X, our fastest, most powerful console ever, and the Xbox Series S.
We embark on the launch of our next generation console, PlayStation 5.
This is the Nintendo Switch.
In this day and age, there are three titans that single-handedly control the medium of video games. Xbox. The titan that has fallen off quite a bit in recent memory due to not having many exclusive games and a lack of polish. Nintendo. The oldest titan of the bunch. They have faced many hardships in the past. No one really wants to buy an iPad as a gaming console, but have persisted and continued to innovate, giving them a prosperous future. PlayStation. In my opinion, the most consistent titan. PlayStation has continued to focus on powerful consoles, great AAA games, and horrible online subscription services, making them the most successful titan. All of these guys are constantly trying to get you to care about their consoles in some way, but ironically, I think people care less about current gen consoles than ever. They tend to be consoles that people get more because they're the new consoles. Not to say that it's fucking stupid to buy a modern video game console. I mean, I have a PS5 over there, so I guess I'd be an idiot if I said that too. No, I think it's just modern game consoles have both good and bad things about them. What's weird is that it seems like people's expectations are also getting higher, as well as the companies that actually make the games as well. I said it's weird, but like it also makes sense. The higher the number you would expect, the better the experience. But what usually happens is a lot of weird shit in the background. It has this weird snowball effect where every AAA game has to be this big grand adventure, something that is as realistic as possible, big as possible, as many microtransactions as possible, which results in a bunch of buggy, boring shit shows and maybe one good game, I guess. One console is an exception to this though, the Nintendo Switch. When this thing came out, it was a fucking sensation. Everyone wanted this thing, a console that you could take on the go and the performance of the games would stay intact. Mostly? That's crazy, but most importantly, it had big games attached to it. Like, no one would have cared about the Switch if it had Just Dance as a launch title. No. Instead, we got this. A brilliant game called The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. A game that not only showcased that the Switch was powerful enough to render this giant-ass open world, but also proved just how willing Nintendo was to be as innovative as possible. This was a giant leap forward compared to what you would expect from previous Zelda games. It ditched the dungeons and replaced it with shrines, but above all else, the one thing that really carried the game, at least for me, was the true sense of freedom. You could go anywhere in this game. You could go to the final boss right away if you wanted to. Terrible idea, but you could do it. It never felt like an area was off limits, and this, again, is a massive difference from what you would previously expect. This is really all Nintendo needed. What the fuck? Another nuke is dropped. Mario Odyssey, a game very intentionally made to be more open and less restrictive like 64 and Sunshine, is announced to be released in the exact same year Breath of the Wild comes out. That was genuinely all Nintendo needed to keep getting people to buy this thing, and then they would consistently pump out games year after year. I have no idea if it's going to be like this with their next console, but I sure hope so. I mean, I don't want to speculate on things that I only know exist because of an out-of-touch Twitter tweet. But if it is, like, 2018 had Smash Ultimate, 2019 had Luigi's Mansion 3, and then 2020 hit. This is a pretty fun year. And they still had a big game with Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's pretty rare considering, you know, the Forbidden Disease. 2021 had Metroid Dread. 2022 had the Forgotten Kirby game. I know I'm really drilling this point of like the Switch had amazing games into your skulls, but like I really want to emphasize the importance of this. I mean, the Switch is competing with a clone of itself that can play Elden Ring. You think people would still play the Switch if it didn't have stuff like Tears of the Kingdom? Or Just Dance? Now that Nintendo's out of the way, I want to compare the other two titans. Back in 2020, the PS5 was revealed, and this thing was and still is a beast, man. The load times are practically non-existent. The controller triggers aren't just triggers now, they're adaptive triggers. The graphics are better. apparently. The game library was and still is pretty dog shit. The subscription services have ballooned into something so overpriced that it makes Panera's grilled cheese seem tame. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, the PS5's launch was mid as hell. Compared to the massive explosion the Switch set off, the PS5 felt like a firework dud. You got a demo game, a remake, a video game, and a game that I haven't played. That is a pretty weak lineup of games, especially for launch. And then Xbox. Oh, sweet Xbox. Yeah, this thing was a joke for a hefty amount of time, and honestly still kinda is. No exclusive launch titles, very similar hardware for the PS5, still had to pay for online. Yeah, it pretty much just had Xbox Game Pass going for it. And God, that name. God, that fucking name. Yeah, I love having both an Xbox Series X and Xbox One X. Totally not confusing at all. Just call it Xbox Scarlet. And again, not a single exclusive game at launch. But it's okay that it didn't have any good exclusive launch titles or any at all. Plenty of consoles didn't have very good launches, but were still able to consistently supply enough games for people to keep buying the consoles over time. Kind of like with the Switch, except the Switch had amazing launch titles as well. But Logan, why do you keep blabbing about exclusives so much? Well, the exclusives are kind of important. They're kind of what make or break a console. They're the games that will actually grab people's attention. Games that are meant to showcase exactly why you should buy this or that console, and they actually get people to get excited about that console. Like, you want to make your friends mad? Well, you can do that exclusively on the Switch. What's really bizarre though is that even if a console does get a lot of exclusives, they'll most likely come to another console, most likely PC. It makes me start to ask, why the hell would I get an Xbox when the majority of the games that I can get on Xbox are also on PC? The obvious answer would be Steam has a giant community, so not porting your games over there would basically be losing money. Porting your shit will print money, but at the same time, you have to realize that the console itself won't get as many sales, and the importance of that console will start to fade a little bit. It makes me feel like a lot of people got the current gen consoles, not because they already knew there would be a lot of quality shit on there, but because they just expected it. That is where things get a little annoying and a little spotty as well, because people just expect companies to be more like Nintendo, where they deliver more frequently, but like it's more inconsistent. And then you ponder why that could possibly be the case, and there's a pretty obvious answer, which is Jesus Christ, games take forever to make now, and they're not even worth it half the time. Nintendo tends to have at least one massive exclusive about every year, while Xbox will have such exclusives like Redfall, which is great if you like bad video games. And the exclusives on PS5 are actually there. It doesn't seem like it, but they are. It's just they don't excite people in the same way that Nintendo exclusives do. Spider-Man 2 was the one game I can actually remember that people really cared about that happened to also be an exclusive. Final Fantasy 16 is a game that I feel most people have forgotten about, even though I've heard it's a great game. Forbidden West game, that was just kind of it's alright. And God of War Ragnarok, that one game that I'd be like, God damn, that's a video game. Well, that's on PS4, fucker. And I think this is why all of these problems start to add up and people start to get more and more upset. People have gotten so used to these massive, ultra-realistic AAA games that that's all they want when it comes to these big budget AAA games. So when it comes to actually making them, the executives will want the devs to really work on it, and it leads to crunch, it leads to a bunch of really high budgets, it leads to just a very annoying, toxic cycle of negativity. But at the end of the day, I play video games because they're fun. Like, I don't really play video games because, wow, that's like real life. That looks like a tree. I play for the crazy experiences that you can have, the amount of fun that it is to just bash someone across the skull. I love killing. Not a psychopath, by the way. You play for the journey, or you play with your friends because it's fun. You don't play because, wow, that game looks so realistic. For example, The Last of Us 2. It's a game that I think is pretty damn controversial. The story's pretty hit or miss, but one thing that I think a lot of people will agree on is it's so similar to the first game. And so I think on one hand, you'll have a lot of people that are really happy about that. People really enjoy the first game's gameplay. And then you'll have people like me who want maybe a little bit more that is, you know, a little more innovative. That grappling hook was pretty cool. Didn't do much with it though. It plays almost identical to the first game. The major differences are that you can go prone, you can be on your stomach, and you can have silencers. That's about it. And I know I'm sucking Nintendo's cock and balls at this point, but like, look at how different Mario Wonder is compared to this. The devs were given as much time as possible to make the game look as good as it does, and it shows. You've got fresh new power-ups and ideas that dynamically refine the core experience of playing a 2D Mario game. That is how you make a fucking video game. Or we can just keep obsessing over, oh god, was that character's arm under the ground for 0.5 seconds?
Like, it can never clip through geometry. It can never like do a janky thing when she's reloading while doing it, or aiming, things that a player will never notice.
Let me give you just another quick example of just how insane the development time has gotten for these ultra-realistic games. GTA 4 was released back in April 29th, 2008, and GTA 5 was released on September 17th, 2013, which is around a 5-year break between those games. And it's not like those games are small or anything, the worlds are pretty fucking massive. And now GTA 6 got announced a couple months back, and the game isn't even out yet. So we went from a 5-year gap in between GTA 4 and GTA 5 to a 12-year gap, if that 2025 release date is actually accurate, between GTA 5 and GTA 6. That's a little bit ridiculous. No, but they had Red Dead 2 back in 2018, so it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, I guess, but then again, in that 5-year gap with GTA 4 and 5, they also had games like LA Noire, Red Dead 1, Max Payne 3. Where the hell has that been in the last 11 years? And this is a big reason for why so many games nowadays are just remakes and remasters. That is a topic for a completely different video, but all I will say is this. Remakes and remasters are very, very common because they are easy to make. Not in terms of like budget wise or anything, but I mean, it's just making a previous game but graphically and technically enhancing it most of the time. It creates a really weirdly big divide when it comes to the quality of the older OG game and the newer remade or remastered version. So like Resident Evil 4 has that parry system, which is so goddamn fun. It is so satisfying, but I mean, the original Resident Evil 4 had things that were just straight up cut from the remake. Probecat had a video talking about how much more soulless the remake was compared to the original, which I haven't played the original, so I can't speak super much on that. But yeah, I mean, some of these complaints are genuinely pretty reasonable, especially when you think of how the remake is supposed to be just better. It's a remake, and you've had so much time to make it better, graphically and technically better, baby. Hey, editor logo heart here. I'm sure you can tell by everything looking the exact same, and me also wearing the exact same clothes. When I was researching a bit, I started to realize just how frequent this kind of like remastering of older games is for modern consoles, and just how lazy it's been getting. I'm assuming because so many people have consoles now and also want to play older games that companies like Konami will look at that and say like, ooh, free money. So they port older games like Metal Gear Solid mainly to modern consoles and don't really give you any other way to actually play them. Not the original version or anything. They might, like other companies might even delist the games, or they'll pull Nintendo and just have like a super shitty online subscription service. You can only play it on there, buddy. But I'm waving my finger at this MGS Master Collection specifically because I recently found out that there was a better collection released a decade ago. The Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection for PS3. This thing is a beloved collection that has all of the original, like super old Metal Gear games, and then the a bit newer Metal Gear Solid games, plus Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4, and you can get this thing for around $50 now. That's pretty damn good. Really good, but it's very inaccessible. It's on the PS3, that's gonna cost a bit, and I mean the Master Collection is just more accessible, so let's look at the Master Collection. It can be found on the PS5, and it has Metal Gear games and Metal Gear Solid games like the Legacy Collection, but it's missing Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4. I mean, you're paying full price at $60 for this, so you'd expect like the best. You'd expect like this is the definitive edition, but guys, you understand, guys, Konami's already spent all of their budget on Metal Gear Survive and Metal Gear Triangle. They can't be bothered to spend an extra $5 to properly enhance the game to 1080p. No, they gotta choose the cheap ass route of up converting. All you gotta know is it's worse than upscaling. Because fuck you.
There's also the issue of just how crappy this port looks. This is obviously just an emulation of the PlayStation version without any real kind of improvements. The image quality is really bad and often just outright blurry. It just outright looks completely fuzzy, like the whole thing is out of focus. This Master Collection was supposed to be offering the best possible way to play these games.
Also, according to this Push Square article, the Master Collection also has a fucking 2012 copyright notification in the menus confirming it's based on older remasters. So basically, Konami's $60 remaster is just a bullshit clone of an already pre-existing remaster. This doesn't have anything to do with anything. I just found it to be kind of funny. I think my biggest problem with remakes and remasters though is that people get so hyped for these things, and it's like it's just an older game. Like Metal Gear Solid Triangle looks great. It looks very fun. Probably because it's already being kind of built up from an already previously fun game. All that budget could have just went into like a new game perhaps. So while remakes and remasters end up being pretty cool in the long run, it ends up feeling like an Imagine Dragons scenario where it's just too fucking often. I see this too often. I see it, and too many people are too excited by it, and it's just fucking annoying, and I want more new games, goddammit. Okay, so with all of this garbage piling up, it raises the very obvious question of why the fuck should I buy an Xbox or a PS5? And the answer? I don't know. As an idiot who bought the PS5, I kinda sorta thought that we'd be getting more games by now. My vast collection of three games. And we already touched on this a bit, but I want to really emphasize just how confusing it is to actually like, why should I buy this when, you know, a lot of this stuff comes to the PC gaming realm. Being able to play exclusive PS5 and Xbox games on Steam makes me feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm fucking cheating because it's just like, it's not supposed to be a video game console. PC's not really a console, but it just plays so many games. You have so many games that you can get on Steam that it kind of can transform into your main video game console. Why should I buy a Xbox or a PS5 when I can just get a lot of their exclusives on PC gaming? The Switch is the only exception because Nintendo holds their exclusives tight. You also don't have to worry about paying online. The online is free on Steam, like it should be. No subscription bullshit. And on top of that, it has controller and keyboard support. You can mod games and fuck around with the files. You saw that Fallout London mod just came out. It's like a completely new Fallout game, only on Steam and I think GOG or whatever, by the way, not consoles. It has a seemingly endless library of games, a lot of them pretty quality stuff, like holy shit. And to rub even more salt in this open wound, PS5 and Xbox games are now increasing to $70, definitely not because of greed, but on Steam, if you want to pay for God of War Ragnarok, for example, it's only $60. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is also $60. Whenever they come over to Steam, they're almost always cheaper. Sure, the games that come to PS5 are definitely going to take a while to actually come to Steam. But because I have so many probably indie games to play, it makes that wait for example, Rift Apart to come to Steam a lot more bearable. The Switch, again, is the one exception that does not conform to this kind of stuff. The Switch continues to bring games in, keeping it at a $60 price point and making sure that there is nothing on Steam giving the console more importance. You might be noticing a common theme at this point. PS5 and Xbox either don't give a shit that what they're doing is dumb, or they don't realize that it's dumb. And the one exception almost always seems to be the Switch. I mean, it makes sense considering that the games on the Switch have been prioritizing innovation and consistency more than anything. It doesn't take forever to make, for example, a Kirby game because it's not focusing on having fucking freckles. While the Switch is like a skinny nerd to the muscle-topped PS5 and Xbox, it's able to give people what they actually want, which is good fucking games. And they do that by not compensating with how hard the graphics go and instead wear a shiny condom. Like, I honestly just want to be able to play more games that are bigger, have bigger budgets, and just more people working on them. I love indie games, but goddamn, when you play a AAA game that has an experience that you won't forget, it's hard to beat that. And I would love to have more consistency, also quantity, when it just comes to exclusive AAA games again. I want the devs and publishers to focus more on making the games fun and innovating on the games. Spider-Man 2, again, recently came out. I'm one of the people that played it and it was just like, yeah, I mean, this is, I know, call me crazy, but like, holy shit, are the two games from Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 extremely similar. And that is the one really big exclusive game on the PS5 that people cared about. I got it because of a bundle, so I decided to play it and say fuck it, but the rest I don't really care about. What if there are other people, I know there are other people like me that also don't really care that much about those games. What are they gonna play? Bug snacks? These two consoles end up feeling very bloated in comparison to indie games or Switch games. And what rings a very hollow message, especially, is when an executive is willing to speak at all, trying to make their voice heard and have the community be empathetic about what they do, but then they never deliver until they do. About a year ago, Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox, said in an interview,
I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way.
And about a year later, Xbox had a showcase that had games that people actually want to play. Games like Doom: The Dark Ages, there was a Gears of War prequel shown, Indiana Jones game had a train guy. It had consistently good announcements that people cared about. That's why this statement that came from the same guy responsible for this amazing showcase is so bizarre. For me, this showcase was proof that people will buy the games on the console as long as the games are actually quality and are not just Redfall, even if those games are going to be coming to Steam. It's proof that if the industry would be more consistent when it comes to just making video games, then people would stop treating their PS5s like Blu-ray players. Much like the consoles that came before it, the Xbox Series X, S, stupid fucking name, is known for its power. And power, while very good, very graphically intensive games can run on the console, is not the only thing you need in order to succeed. You need games that can get people excited, games that can give people an experience, games that can shape people's perspectives on what a video game can be. Similar to what the Xbox 360 did, or what the Wii did, or what the PS2 did. Consoles that are remembered and have a very strong legacy because goddamn, they have some good ass games. That gives consoles a legacy, and right now I'm at least hopeful that modern video game consoles can have a stronger legacy in the future. The Switch will get a successor to its underpowered ass. The Xbox will get games that will make people genuinely happy that they purchased the thing. And the PS5, well, they can have bug snacks too. Okay, this one's gonna be a little weird because it's the trifecta. Okay.
It's just like Nintendo and an X. That's the Xbox and a PS like that. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's just beautiful.